more session is there, that is complete the magnetostatics part. So we'll be done with the first chapter, static electric fields and magnetic fields. So in today's lecture, we'll see the concept of the magnetic vector potential and the Poisson's equation in magnetic fields and the boundary conditions. We will see the magnetic field intensity due to the different configurations. Something like due to a circular ring, and what is the magnetic field intensity due to a Helmholtz coil. So these are the topics for today. So first of all, we'll see magnetic potential. So the point here, why I was calling it as a magnetic vector potential. Does it mean the magnetic scalar potential? If we see the electronics part, we have defined the electric field as a of the gradient potential. So what is this potential? Is it a scalar vector? In electrostatics.
Scalar, sir.
Scalar. So similarly, when I define intensity is also the scalar potential. So where I can say this Vm is the magnetic scalar potential. So let us see. First, I was assumed that there is a magnetic scalar potential existing. And I can represent something like the magnetic field in the gradient of potential. Now, using your Ampere's law, in the previous session, we have seen the Maxwell's equation. What is the Ampere's curl of the magnetic density is equal to the current density? And you take it as a equation 1. So if you assume the magnetic field intensity is the gradient of magnetic potential, so let us substitute the same thing here. So which will curl of minus del Vm is equal to J. So which means curl of del Vm is equal to minus J. So when you are assuming that magnetic field intensity is equal to something like this, you are going to get this equation. But it is quite the violation of your vector identity. So you have your one of your vector identity. The curl of a gradient has to be always equal to 0, irrespective of whatever the type of scalar it is. So when you compare this one, what you are getting now, the curl of a gradient, you're getting it as a constant. So what is the meaning of that? So to satisfy identity here, your density has to be equal. But it is really meaning once the current is no current which will exist, so there is no magnetic field. So the question is, when you are assuming the magnetic field intensity is the gradient of potential, this is your Ampere's law. If you go in the same way, it is a violation of your vector identity. So which means that your assumption is going to be wrong. Or suppose if your assumption has to become true, it has to reflect the current density has to be equal to 0. But if you consider any medium where the current density is 0, there is no question of magnetic field. So the question is here, in general, the magnetic scalar potential will not exist. So is it clear right now for everyone? Is it clear for all of you? Magnetic scalar potential will not exist. So what I have done is a reverse engineering here. I was assuming that the magnetic scalar potential exists, and I was proving that it was a violation of your vector identity. So hence, whatever your assumption is going to be wrong. So the moment once your vector identity is not satisfied, whatever you have assumed is going to be wrong. So I have assumed that scalar potential is existing, which is proved to be wrong. So the magnetic scalar potential will not exist. So are you getting my point, everyone? Everybody kept silent. Am I audible first of all for everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think I reply.
Yeah, yeah,
Actually, I
yes.
was going through the chat. No, if you had any problem, you can reply in the message. Reply by message. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Okay. So the point is the magnetic scalar potential exists. So let us see the same thing in electrostatics. Whether the Maxwell equation and the vector identity, is it satisfying or not? So
Scalar
suppose if
potential
it
does not exist, right?
magnetic scalar potential will not exist. I was
Yeah,
trying to prove what happens in electrostatics.
yeah, yeah, sure.
In case of electrostatics, you know that electric field is the gradient of potential. And here your V is a scalar. Now, what is your Maxwell equation which says you have the first Maxwell equation says that the curl of electric field intensity is equal to null vector. So take it as equation 1. So let me replace the electric field intensity in terms of potential. So what will happen? The curl of the negative of potential is equal to 0, which means the curl of gradient of potential is equal to 0. So this is what even your vector identity also says. So what is your vector identity says? The curl of a gradient is said to be 0. So the moment once you are the electric scalar potential existing, it is satisfying the Maxwell equation and it is satisfying the vector identity also. So here in this case it is true. I hope the point is clear. So finally the conclusion is when you go to the magnetostatics, the magnetic scalar potential generally will not exist. So let us see whether the what is meant by magnetic vector potential. So here, whatever the potential I called is basically a vector in magnetostatics. So I will try to come across the magnetic vector potential with the same Maxwell's equations. So in case of a static magnet, you basically know that the magnetic flux density or the field density, which will be always equals to 0. In magnetostatics, there is no divergence for magnetic fields. So in your Maxwell, this is the first statement. And you had one more vector identity, which we have discussed in the first. That is, the divergence of the curl of any vector is always equal to 0. So if you look at the Maxwell equation and vector identity, you will come to know that the magnetic flux will be written as the curl of a particular vector A. So where this A, I was calling it as the magnetic vector potential. So here basically A is a vector. So how the magnetic vector potential is defined as the magnetic vector potential represents the magnetic flux density. So can you define what is the unit of that? What is the unit of magnetic vector potential? Can you reply in the message? What will be the unit of magnetic potential? First of all, you define what is the unit of the magnetic flux density. Weber per meter square. Good. So what is the unit of del then? What is the unit of del? Cross product is nothing but just a magnitude, right? Multiplication. And of course, there will be a direction. So when you look at the units of del, it is in the order of meter. So you are calling it as dou by dou x, by dou y. So it is per meter. So now you can easily define. So the units of vector potential is Weber per meter. So the final conclusion is here: in magnetostatics, the scalar potential will not exist and the magnetic vector potential will exist, where we can represent the curl of the magnetic vector potential is equal to the velocity. So we'll do the extensive discussion on magnetic vector potential. We discussed the last concept called antennas. So when you see the radiation pattern due to different kind of antennas, we do extensive analysis of this vector. But as of now, you can see that the magnetic vector potential, if you take the curl of that, you will get a magnetic density. That much is enough. So on magnetic vector potential due to different currents, we'll see and wave propagation. Clear? Any questions? Okay. Next, we'll see the equation. So in electrostatics also there is this equation. I hope you would have been remembered. So Poisson's equation in electrostatic del square is minus epsilon. So what is the importance of Poisson's equation was, the moment once you use Poisson's equation, potential is a function of x. So the Poisson equation is basically helpful to find out variation of the potential in any medium. So now similarly the same thing magnetic fields also. So even in magnetic equation say vector with respect to. So voice is not clear.
Yes, sir. Actually, it's breaking.
Breaking, huh? Okay. Is my voice clear now? Yeah, let's see once again. If any problem comes, you just let me know. Okay, so the Poisson's equation says the variation of the magnetic vector potential in a space. So the Poisson's equation will be arrived by solving the Ampere's law. So first of all, you try to recollect what is an Ampere's law. So the Ampere's law states that the curl of the magnetic field intensity is equal to the current density. So the circulation of magnetic field intensity is equal to the current density which is enclosed in it. And we know that the magnetic flux density can be written as mu times h. So h can be written as b by. So you can substitute here. What will happen? Curl of b by mu is equal to j. So which means curl of B is equal to mu into J. And in turn, just now we have seen the magnetic flux density is a function of curl of A. So if we substitute here, the curl of A is equal to mu into J. Can somebody tell me what is the expansion for this? You can switch on your microphone and speak here. What is the expansion for this double coil?
So
Are you
it is,
getting? Yeah.
gradient of
Hmm.
divergence of A minus
Hmm.
del square A.
Good. Only one people is saying. What about others?
Sir, actually, I referred the notes. Sorry, sir.
That is fine only. But still, that means by this time you should have been able to remember the formulas, right?
Yes,
I have
sir.
been discussed the vector identity quite long back. See, the moment once if you are not practiced, it's a very big problem. I was telling, and you should not take it in a casual way. In the first class only, I told you, the moment once you choose an electromagnetic theory means you should be keep on update with the top subject. So whatever the topic, if it is over, you should have 100% confidence on that. So if you are not able to remember the formulas means, I still have a question when you will do the practice then. We are almost concluding the first chapter and still you are not able to remember the things what we have discussed in the first class. Should not be like this. Okay, now anyhow we see that what is the gradient of this magnetic vector potential? If you see in case of any magnetic fields, it doesn't matter whatever the vector it is, whether it is a magnetic flux density or magnetic field intensity or it's a magnetic vector potential. The divergence nature for the magnetic fields will not exist. So which means that this term can be neglected to zero, just by assuming that there is no divergence nature for magnetic fields. So what is the rest of the term represents? Del square A is equal to minus mu into J. In this case, A is nothing but your vector, not a scalar. So if we solve this Poisson's equation again, you can see here how the magnetic vector potential varies in a space. So we'll see some problems. That time we can understand how the magnetic potential varies in a space. And here J is nothing but your current density. What will be the units of current density?
Ampere per meter cube.
What is that? Ampere per meter square. That is a problem. You should do practice.
Yes,
Or
sir.
otherwise there is
We
or
are
otherwise
doing
there
it.
is no meaning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's see. So first, next thing is the magnetic boundary condition. See, the moment once you are not practiced, actually I lost the interest. See, the thing is, when you want to discuss the magnetic boundary condition, you should be able to analyze what will happen in the electric field boundary condition. So if you are understanding the electric field boundary condition, it is very easy to understand this also. But I am afraid that you have not practiced. So again, the concept is becoming new here. So I thought I can have you remembered the concepts of boundary conditions that we discussed in electric fields? Can you tell me anybody? Yeah, what is the first boundary condition?
E tan 2 is equal to E tan 1
Okay. Next one.
and D tan 2 minus D tan 1 is equal to rho. Yes.
No. Is it D tan 2 or normal component?
Normal components. D
D
naught 2
normal 1.
minus D.
Is it D normal 1 or D normal 2?
D normal 2 minus D normal 1 is equal to rho S.
That is what I have said, or what? Can you cross check others also? What is the electric field boundary condition I told you?
It's d normal 1 minus d normal
Very
2 is rho s.
exactly. So that you should remember, because it is very important. Whatever the discussion we have done, we are assuming that the wave enters from medium 2 to medium 1. So when the wave enters from medium 2 to medium 1, the first condition, the tangential component for electric field remains same irrespective of the medium. And the second thing is d normal 1 minus d normal 2 is equal to the surface charge density. So suppose if you interchange this, your answer is going to be wrong. That's why you have to be very particular about it. So even these two also valid provided the wave enters from medium 2 to medium 1. Suppose if you consider the wave enters from medium 1 to medium 2, this equation gets reversed, what you said now. So you got the point?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. So then you will see the magnetic field boundary condition in the same way. So this is my interface, which is carrying a surface current. And let us say this horizontal moment is x direction for an instance. And this is my y direction or something z direction, let us say. So the wave is incidenting from medium 2, and a part of the energy is reflected back, which is not my concern right now. And a part of the magnetic field is transmitted. So when you resolve the magnetic field intensity in medium 2, so this is my tangential component, because which is parallel to the sheet, and this is my normal component which is perpendicular to the sheet. So similarly, H1 also can be resolved like parallel to the interface and perpendicular to the interface. So when it is parallel to the interface, you are calling it as a tangential component. And when it is perpendicular to the interface, you are calling it as a normal component. Now, what I try to do, this small part of the sheet, I was trying to enclose with a closed loop. So when you are moving from A to B, let us say you are moving parallel to the x-axis, and B to C, it is, let us say it is in a delta y. That means some variation is there, and this length of the loop is negligible. So I was assuming that delta y is negligible here. So which means that you have a surface sheet, surface current, and you have taken a small loop like this, and assuming that this distance, you are assuming it to be negligible. In that case, what happens using your Ampere's law? When you go in a closed loop, the line integral of magnetic field intensity is equal to I enclosed. Now, if you want to go in a closed line integral, let us say what is the line integral from A to B. So when you are moving from A to B, you are moving in the medium 1. So when you are moving from A to B, the corresponding magnetic field comes is nothing but H tan 1. So I can say the magnetic field component is H tan 1 into, you have covered a finite distance of delta x. And similarly, can you tell me what is the line integral from B to C?
Zeros.
What is the reason?
Delta y tends to 0.
Okay, forget about it. My delta y is not equal to 0. It is tending to be very large. That means I have considered a bigger loop where the distance from B to C is quite more. In that case, what will be the value?
Again,
Anybody?
it will be 0 only.
What will be the reason?
Because
dot
the
product
parallel.
They
I'm
are
sorry?
perpendicular. They are
Exactly.
perpendicular.
Correct. Can you tell me in this case, what will be the direction of magnetic field? Since the current is flowing in this particular direction, we have seen in the previous surface current. If we move perpendicular to the sheet, there is no magnetic field. So suppose if the current flows in x direction, the magnetic field will be developed in y direction. Right. Now your magnetic field is, right now in this case, current is flowing in this direction, which means the magnetic field is produced along the x direction, right? So that is the reason why when you are moving from A to B, you are getting a finite line integral. So because there is a magnetic field when you move from A to B. So what will happen when you are moving from B to C? Your magnetic field is there in X direction and your length is perpendicular to that. So your dot product becomes 0. So it doesn't matter what is the length of the loop or the height of the loop. So when you are moving from B to C, you are moving perpendicular to the magnetic field. So your dot product becomes 0. So, and at the same time, when you are moving from C to D, so when you are moving from C to D, you are moving opposite to H tan 2. So which means the magnetic field will be minus H tan 2 into length you have covered is delta X. And again the same reason D to A, the line integral will be 0 because you are moving perpendicular to magnetic field. So what is the total line integral now you are getting? H tan 1 into delta X minus H tan 2 into delta X is equal to, let me say I is the current enclosed by the loop. So H tan 1 minus H tan 2 is equal to I by delta X. Can you tell me what is that I by delta X called?
Okay, sir.
Very good. It is basically called the surface current density. So when you are considering a surface current density, you should consider a dimension which is perpendicular to the current. You can see here current is flowing in this direction. When surface current density is defined, you should consider a perpendicular dimension. So H tan 1 minus H tan 2 is equals to K. So this is your first boundary condition. So the summary is here is now, when the wave enters from one medium to other medium, the tangential component of electric field is same. So that's what we have seen when E tan 1 is equal to E tan 2. So it doesn't matter whatever may be the interface it is. But when it comes to the magnetic field, the difference in the tangential component is exactly due to the surface current. So right now this is an interface which is separating two different medium. So the difference in the tangential component of magnetic field is equal to the current density present on this interface. So any questions you can ask now. So before going to the next one. So do you have any questions now? Shall I go to the next
Sir.
one then? Yeah.
Sir, is there some kind of duality applicable here between electric and magnetic fields?
Duality means like in your networks, duality theorem you are talking
Yes.
about.
Yes.
I can say, but I feel instead of saying duality, I can say symmetry in electric field, in electromagnetics. So when I say divergence in electric fields, it is called in magnetostatics. Maybe I don't know how you will define duality, but in my case, electric fields and magnetic fields are quite opposite in nature. So that's what your duality says.
Sir, does the normal component of magnetic fields both medium will be equal?
Yes,
So
exactly.
it was different in electric field. So I thought some kind of duality or something.
Okay, that is exactly the same thing. That's what I was telling. See, maybe your duality in the way how you are defining duality may be matching here. But what I felt here was in electrostatics, when I say divergence, it is if electric fields are said to be divergent, magnetic fields are said to be rotational. In the
Yes.
same way, when it comes to the boundary condition, electric field tangential component remains same. When it comes to magnetic field, normal component remains same. That's what we are going to see the next one also. So it is almost like the same way. Maybe you can call it as a duality.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Now we will see for the normal component what will happen. So this is my interface. So I was saying the front side of the interface. So if you see the front side of the interface, it looks like a line, but actually it's not a line, it is a plane. So this is a plane which is separating two different mediums, and assume that there is some current is present on this interface. and the wave is entering from medium 2 to medium 1. And as usual, you can see this is a tangential component, normal component, and this is the tangential and this is a normal component. Now what will happen, since this surface current, or you can say there is current exists on the interface, I was trying to capture the magnetic flux by taking a cylinder something like this. So whatever the current density present on this interface, it is going to produce a magnetic flux in the top direction as well as the bottom direction. Because I was assuming that there is a normal component also exists. Now what will happen using your Maxwell's equation? When you take any closed surface, the net magnetic flux leaving the surface will be always equal to 0 as long as the surface is closed. Right now I have taken a closed surface. You can see here, this is my closed surface. So the flux is coming out in this fashion and the flux is coming out in this fashion. So the net amount of flux leaving the surface will be always equal to 0. That's what we have seen in Maxwell equation. So there is a flux which is coming out of the top surface. What is the amount of flux it is coming out? So if we go in the top direction, the corresponding B will be the normal one, B normal one. So B normal one is the corresponding magnetic field, and which is coming out in a loop area. You can see here, this is my loop area of delta S. And what will be the flux leaving the bottom surface? So the flux leaving the bottom surface, when you are going down, you are moving against to B normal 2. So the corresponding B will be minus B normal 2 in a loop area of delta S. Same thing. So this delta S, you have to remember, this is not the surface area of the cylinder. This is the circular area of the cross section in which the flux is coming out. So what will be the total net flux right now? The flux leaving the top plate plus flux leaving the bottom surface. So you are going to get B normal 1 into delta S minus B normal 2 into delta S is equal to 0. So we'll get B normal 1 is equal to B normal 2. So when you go to the magnetic fields, the normal component of the magnetic flux density remains same. It doesn't matter how much ever the current is existing on the interface. This is your second boundary condition. So finally, when you summarize all the 4 boundary conditions, even including electrostatics and magnetostatics, so in case of electrostatics, you have the tangential component of electric field remains same. You should remember it because this topic is having a huge weightage in the gate. So that's the reason why you don't miss any topic here, any concept here. So d normal 1 minus d normal 2 is equal to rho s. This is in electrostatics, and when in magnetostatics, h tan 1 minus h tan 2 is equal to k, and b normal 1 is equal to b normal 2. And more specifically here, you need to, all these equations are valid by assuming that the wave is entering from medium 2 to medium 1. So this assumption has to be satisfied. So when any problem is given, whatever the medium from which the wave is entering, you should consider it as a medium 2. And to which medium it is entering, whatever the destination medium, you can consider it as a medium 1. So then only these equations are going to be valid. So any questions you have, you can ask now related to boundary conditions. So the concepts are clear now for everyone? Okay. So the next thing we will discuss about the magnetic field intensity due to a circular ring. As you can see here, this is my circular ring which carries a current in the anti-clockwise direction, right? So all of you start with your right hand, Fleming's right hand principle, and can you say what is the direction of the magnetic field here? The moment once the current is flowing in the anti-clockwise direction, what will be the direction of magnetic field? I'm talking about what will be the direction of magnetic field towards left side. Z, along Z, very good. Yes, along the Z, correct. See here, when you are talking about the Fleming's right hand principle, what it says, the thumb has to be pointed out in the direction of current, and the encircle moment of all other fingers shows the direction of flux. Or otherwise, you can interchange that. Suppose you can make sure that the encircle moment can represent the current, that time the thumb can represent the flux. So sometimes that is better. So even in this case also, instead of putting the thumb in the direction of current, you assume that other than thumb, whatever the encircle moment of all other fingers, you can rotate it in an anti-clockwise manner. Then you can see here, the thumb is pointing in this direction. So it could be the vice versa. If you place the thumb in direction of current, other finger shows magnetic field. If you assume that the encircle moment of other fingers by considering it as a current, the thumb shows the magnetic field. So it can be used in either way. So it is very easy for me to use by considering the direction of current is the encircle moment of all other fingers. So when you are rotating in anti-clockwise, you can see here the thumb is pointing in a axial direction. Actually, if you see here, this whatever the circular ring I have given, this is located perpendicular to the sheet. Just for the visual purpose, I have projected it on the paper, but actually speaking, this coil is placed perpendicular to the sheet. Are you able to imagine, everyone? This coil is placed perpendicular to the sheet. Actually, we will not be able to see the circle. But for the visual purpose, I have drawn it in a plane.
Sir,
Yeah.
if I using the Fleming's right hand rule,
Yes.
if we the current direction and the fingers that we are encircling, if
Ah.
you see, the
Hmm.
thumb is pointing towards the minus Z axis.
How? I didn't
Uh,
understand. Because see, you assume that whatever the coil I have placed it here, this is actually perpendicular to the plane of my paper.
Okay.
And you start with your right hand. First of all, you
Yes.
start with your right hand. Make sure that the thumb is parallel to the plane of paper. What is the other finger shows in that case? Suppose when you are placing the thumb in this particular direction, all of you, ensure that the thumb is placed in that direction. So what is the circular movement of all other finger shows? Can you tell me? No, which direction all other fingers are rotating? Is it rotating going into the paper and coming out? Something like anti-clockwise. Is it matching to this direction of current or not? The moment once you place your thumb along this particular direction, that means from this point to here, you just all of you place your thumb in the same direction of Z. That means towards the right side and parallel to the plane of your paper. So what is the movement of all other finger shows? The movement of all other finger shows is exactly matching to whatever the current is passing through that. Is it correct or not?
So the the down arrow pointing towards the down will be on the front side.
I'm not getting you. Can you repeat it again? The
So
down
the
arrow?
current direction with down arrow, that is on the front side, and the arrow which is on the
Exactly.
up. Okay, okay, okay. In that
Exactly.
case, it's right. Okay, sir.
Yes. So whatever the downside I have given, that is facing on the front side of the paper. That means top side to the paper. And whatever this arrow is going on the other side of the paper. You can imagine that. So that case, the flux will be developed along this axial direction. Now, to solve this magnetic field intensity due to circular ring, I can apply the classic Biot-Savart's law equation. So I have taken a small current element here. Let me say the current is pointing out in this direction, but actually the current is circulating here. But if you consider the magnetic field due to this small current element, you draw a small tangent here. So this represents your current direction there. And this is my radial vector. So this is my radial vector. So I have considered there is a magnetic field which is perpendicular to both this current element and radial direction. So that I was calling it as a some differential magnetic field. So can you tell me what is the differential magnetic field in that case? You can switch on your microphone and you can speak someone. So what I was considering, this is the magnetic field I have considered provided that this current element and the radial direction both are perpendicular. You can see here, this is lies in one plane and this is lies in another plane. There is a 90 degrees angle here. So this differential magnetic field, I was assuming it is pointing out in this particular direction where your dl element and radius vector are perpendicular. So can you tell me?
IDL by 4 pi a square.
Very good. What IDL by 4 pi a square? Basically, the classical equation is IDL sine theta by 4 pi a square. But here what will happen when your current is here and A is like this, radius vector, which are perpendicular, you will get that differential magnetic field here, whatever I have shown here in this direction, will be IDL by 4 pi a square because your theta will be 90. Now, what I was interested here was, since the magnetic field is directed along this particular axis direction, so whatever the magnetic field is there, I was resolving it in the axial direction. So what will be the magnetic field along axial direction? So you can see here, I was representing this is my theta. So I have drawn a line which is a radial line from the current element to the observer, and I was considering this is my theta. So where is the Z? Z is the distance of this observer from the center of the coil, and R is the radius of the coil. So I have defined some angle here, theta, something like this. So what about this angle now? 90 minus theta. And as you can see here, this radial vector and your differential magnetic field are said to be perpendicular. So already there is 90 minus theta angle is covered. So which is nothing but theta. So can you tell me what is the magnetic field in this transverse direction, upward direction? Can you tell me what is the magnetic field in this direction? So first of all, I want to define what is the magnetic field in this direction. You know the resultant vector, right? And you know the angle. So what will be this component then?
DH cos theta.
So what will be the magnetic field in axial direction then? If it is theta, this is 90 minus theta. So whatever the magnetic field in axial direction will be the resultant magnetic field multiplied by sine theta. This is simple. This is your resultant magnetic field. And since this is your theta, this will become dH cos theta. And this will become dH sine theta. The same thing. So the magnetic field, differential magnetic field along the axial direction is the resultant magnetic field times sine theta. Right? Now, using your trigonometry, you can say here the value of sine theta will be equal to So you can see here sine theta is equal to opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. So r divided by the hypotenuse is equal to 8. Now you can substitute here. So what is the axial magnetic field right now? So the resultant magnetic field will be IDL by 4 pi a square into sine theta will be r by a. So the axial magnetic field is equal to IDL r divided by 4 pi a cube. So can you find the total magnetic field right now? So to find the total magnitude, you have to integrate the differential magnetic field along this loop. So I can call it as some 0 to L. So what will be the value of L? When you are moving on the circle, what is the total length you have covered?
2 pi r.
This is 2 pi r in this case. R is the radius. So the total circumference when you are calculating the axial magnetic field is said to be IDL, I into R divided by 4 pi a cube into the closed line integral along a circle will become 2 pi r. So what you will get right now, I into r square divided by 2 into a cube. And you can see here the value of a can be written as r square plus z square whole power 1 by 2. You can see the simple triangle. So there is a 90 degrees angle here. So the hypotenuse can be written as root over r square plus z square. You can substitute the same thing. So you are going to get finally I into r square divided by 2 into r square plus z square whole power 3 by 2. So this is a magnetic field intensity due to a circular ring along the axial direction. So Z represents the distance of the observer point from the center of the coil, and R is the radius of your coil. So any questions you can clarify it now only, because actually this is very important in magnetic fields. So the moment, yeah, someone have a question here.
So could you just like explain that diagram, just the diagram part? That is how you have that DH and the all of
Okay. Rest of the derivation part, is it clear for you? The moment once you understand this part,
Yes, sir.
you will be able to do the derivation part, right? Okay. So see here, this is your circular coil which is carrying the current in a anti-clockwise direction. Now, I have taken a small current element. So when you draw the tangent here, so it will something looking like this. So this is your current element direction in that case, right? This is your current element direction. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And this is your radial vector. Both are perpendicular, right?
Yes.
Now you just see here, for your better understanding, I have projected this circular coil on the plane of the paper. But actually, if you are seeing, the coil is placed vertical to the paper, right? As I said in the initial starting time.
Okay. Yes, sir.
That time, what is the direction of DL represents? Are you able to imagine the moment once the coil is slightly tilted such that the coil is fully perpendicular to the plane of paper? So in that time, can you be able to imagine how this current vector looks to be?
Parallel
Parallel to what?
the paper.
No. The moment you can see here, once this coil, whatever the coil is placed vertically, you can see here the tangent at that current element is represents a perpendicular vector, exactly perpendicular to the plane. Once the coil is placed horizontally, okay, what you said was correct. Suppose if the coil is placed horizontally like this, you can draw the tangent like this. Correct?
Yes.
The same thing, I was 90 degrees, I was rotating. what will happen that time?
Okay.
You are,
Okay.
you
Yes,
are not
sir.
able to, you are able to imagine, right? You will not
Yes,
be
sir.
able to see the circle, but this element is pointing outside the plane of paper, right?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Right now you can imagine that is pointing outside, and this is your radial vector.
Okay.
And what will be the magnetic field direction? The magnetic field will be perpendicular to current as well as the radial. What is the Biot-Savart law says? The resultant magnetic field should be perpendicular to the current direction as well as the radial direction.
Yes.
The current is pointing outside the plane of the paper, right?
Hmm.
And this is your radial vector. So what will be the other dimensions then? This one only. So when you see this resultant vector, it is perpendicular to the radial vector. Is it satisfied or not? First criteria. No, when you see I have represented, this is my resultant magnetic field. Is it perpendicular to the radial element or not? I was assuming
Yes,
that
sir.
there is a 90 degrees, correct? First
Okay. Yes,
criteria
sir.
satisfied. And what is your current in this case? Current is perpendicular to the plane of paper.
Yes.
Whatever the perpendicular paper and this one, both are perpendicular or not? One lies in the plane and the other one is perpendicular to the plane. So what is the
Okay.
angle between them? 90 degrees.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah, now you got the point, right?
Yes, sir. Okay.
So once I found out the differential magnetic field in this direction, I can resolve it, the axial component and the transverse component.
Yes, sir. Clear, sir. Okay.
Clear? Right. Good.
Yeah.
So
Thank you,
finally,
sir.
what is the formula you are getting? The magnetic field intensity is equal to I into R square divided by 2 into R square plus Z square whole power 3 by 2. Now, here I have a question. I want to find out the magnetic field intensity at the center of the coil. Can you tell me how to solve that problem? I want to find out the magnetic field intensity not on the axis, but at the center of the coil. Very good. Z equal to 0, correct. The moment once your axial distance becomes 0, you are at the center of the coil. So substitute that and tell me the answer. So exactly at the center of the coil, your Z will be 0. So when your Z will be 0, you are going to get the net magnetic field intensity is equal to I by 2R, infinity. Please cross check. So your Z value will be 0. So this 2 will get cancelled and R square 1 R term. So it is I by 2R. So this is a very important equation. So many times they have asked the question, not in the GATE, but in other PSA exams like ISRO also they have asked so many times. But the thing is here, the derivation part has to be clear for you. So the way how you are resolving the component and your imaginations is highly appreciated here in this case. Okay. So the moment once you understand this magnetic field due to circular ring, so let us try to solve the magnetic field intensity in a Helmholtz coil. And actually there are the two coils which will be placed like this. And R is the coil radius of the coil. And these two coils are placed by a separation of R itself. So if you see the distance between center of coil 1 to the coil 2, it is exactly equal to the radius of the each coil. So in this case, both the coils are symmetrical. And the radius of the coil is also same. And the current is also same. And the current is also pointing out, in the anti-clockwise fashion. Now, I want to find out what will be the magnetic field intensity exactly at the midway between the coils. So this is my point of interest where I want to find out the magnetic field intensity. First of all, can you tell me everybody, what will be the magnetic field intensity due to coil 1 and coil 2? Will it get cancelled or will it get additive? It will be along y-axis only. Okay, I was not representing any x-axis or y-axis here. I want to see what will be the magnetic field due to coil 1 and coil 2. Is it in the same direction or is it going to be cancelled?
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, that the component along the radial direction will be cancelled. One
Okay.
opposite to other.
I'm not talking about radial
Only.
direction. This point, I was talking about axial point. What will happen when it is along the axial point?
Sir, if both current directions are opposite to
Same.
each other,
No.
then
I told you current direction are same.
then the fields won't get cancelled.
Very good. Correct. All of you start with your right hand rule only. You see here, since coil 1 and coil 2 carries the current in an anti-clockwise, by assuming that you can see here, this is the current which is facing on the top side of the paper. So due to coil 1, your thumb is pointing in the same direction. Due to coil 2 also, you can place your right hand and encircle movement of other fingers, your thumb is also pointing in the same direction. So because of this coil 1 and coil 2, it is going to be additive. So the Helmholtz coil is the configuration of two symmetrical coils of equal radius and equal current, spacing by a distance which is equal to the radius of the coil. So there are a plenty of applications where the Helmholtz coil is basically used in the industry. So the Helmholtz coil is basically used to cancel the magnetic field generated by the earth. So you know that earth is producing the magnetic field in a certain directions. So there are a certain applications where you need to demagnetize, or you can say degaussing the earth magnetic field. There you are making use of the Helmholtz coil. Or sometimes the Helmholtz coil is also used to verify if any particular equipment, if any equipment is designed for submarine application or naval application. So there a strong magnetic field will be created in that environment. So when you go to any submarine or surface ship, you can find out that there are so many low frequency transmitters and receivers will be operating, which will be, in turn, which will produce a more magnetic field. So what will you just imagine that the platform is very congested there when you go to submarine or surface ship. So you have a receiver which is placed immediate to the transmitter. So you may have a sonar transmitter which will be kept very close to the receiver itself. So the transmitter is delivering the power in terms of kilowatt. Immediately next to that, you may have a receiver. So whatever the strong magnetic field created by the transmitter may couple to the receiver. So that means that in that case, your receiver should be designed in such a fashion that the receiver should not get affected because of that magnetic field. So whenever any product, if you are designing for the naval application, especially for Indian Navy, so there is a specific standard which says that that particular equipment has to withstand the magnetic field. In other words, the magnetic field should not influence any other equipment which is located to be installed in a ship. So for that application, your Helmholtz coil will be designed. So whatever the equipment you are going to test, that will be placed between the coils. So you can see here, this current and this current is going to create a magnetic field, and exactly at the center, it is going to be maximum. That we will see how it is right now. So the moment based on the current, how much current you are passing it, so it is going to create the proportional magnetic field. So that time we have to observe how the equipment performs. And actually in our BEL, we have designed this Helmholtz coil indigenously. So it is actually nowhere in India. So we have designed a Helmholtz coil which will be able to withstand 800 amperes per meter at 400 Hz frequency. Not only at DC, 50 Hz at 400 Hz frequency. That is the first time in India we have designed, and actually I was the co-designer in designing that coil, and I have published one IEEE journal paper also related to that. So maybe in the drive we can upload the same link to you also. You will get the concept of the Helmholtz coil. Okay, anyhow, you understood the basic purpose of the Helmholtz coil, right, everyone? Yeah, good. Now you can apply the same concept. The design is not so complicated. Now first what we need to see here is, so find the magnetic field intensity at the center of the two coils. So you can consider due to coil 1. So when you consider due to coil 1, the same as your previous equation I given. Due to a circular ring, you know that I into R square by 2 into R square plus Z square whole power 3 by 2. So this is the same magnetic field even due to coil 2 also. And since you just verified that the magnetic field intensity due to coil 1 and coil 2 in the same direction, the net magnetic field can be written as 2 times of H1. So then you will get, you multiply 2 for H1, you are going to get I into R square by 2 into R square plus Z square whole power 3 by 2. Of course, 2 gets cancelled. So this is your magnetic field intensity at any distance of Z. But my point of interest lies exactly at the center. So when you are calculating the distance from each coil, it is equal to R by 2, right? So the point of interest lies H2 will not be in the opposite direction of H1. No, I told you, right? You look at the direction by placing all your right hand. So assume that the encircle moment of other fingers matching to each coil current direction. Then your thumb is pointing in the same direction like this. The same rule applicable for coil 2 also, because coil 2 also carries the current in the same direction. So the magnetic field also pointing out in the same direction.
So at the point of observation, that is the center point between the two coils. So for that, like for H1, it is towards the right for coil 1, and for coil 2, it's like on the opposite side of the actual H direction, right?
No, how you are telling opposite side? That I was not understanding. I was concentrating about direction of magnetic field, whether it is coil 1 or coil 2, you forget about that. So let me say I was defining this is my Z axis. Okay.
Okay.
The coils are placed along the positive Z axis. Fine.
Yes.
Now, when you are looking at coil 1, when you are placing your right hand and matching to the direction of current, your thumb is pointing in the positive Z or negative Z.
Positive Z.
Right? The same
Yes.
rule applicable even for coil 2 also. I was
Yes,
talking about direction of magnetic field. Direction of magnetic field.
Okay, but so since we're calculating between the two of them, like if you're calculating on the right side of coil 1 and coil 2, it will be the sum of both of them because both are in the same direction. But now that we're calculating in between the two coils, we still take H2 to be positive.
No, that's what I was telling, because this point of observation, wherever the point lies here, not only here, not only here, not only here, it is going to be additive only. That's what I was telling. I still didn't understand why you are saying that it will be negative in opposite direction. I still didn't understand the logic. The reason, see, it is very simple. The moment once, if you are placing two coils together, if you apply the Fleming's principle, because that is the easiest method, I was following that method. When you are placing all other fingers matching to this particular loop, the thumb is pointing in the same direction.
Yes.
Even when you are doing in the same method, the thumb is pointing in the same direction. So what I mean to say, not only here, not only here, not only here, even if you take any point on the Z axis, the magnetic field is going to be additive only. But the strength of the magnetic field is going to decrease, because once you are moving very, very far away, what will happen here? Because it is very, very far away from the coil 1, right?
Yes.
Coil 1 effect will not be going to come. So you can say that because magnetic field is going to be confined to a particular zone. So that time it is a purely effect of coil 2, like that. Generally, if you do the simulation also, you are going to get a magnetic field response like this between the coils. So exactly at the center, the magnetic field is maximum. So why I was saying the magnetic field is maximum at the center was, so let me go in a conventional mathematic way. If you want to prove any function is said to be maximum or minimum, what you will do, you tell me? I was saying in this case, you have two coils. I said that the magnetic field is exactly maximum at the center. Can you tell me in terms of your mathematics, how will you prove that? Very good, differentiate. So you know the magnetic field intensity, right? You differentiate the magnetic field with respect to Z and equate it to 0. And you take the differentiation of magnetic field with respect to Z and equate to 0, you will get a value of Z which is equal to R by 2. This is basically said to be the local maximum. I think you would have known this concept. So that is the reason why I was saying exactly at the center of the coil, the magnetic field is going to be maximum. So when you put Z equal to R by 2 in that case, you try and tell me what is the answer you are going to get. Substitute Z equal to R by 2 here. And all of you do the calculation. So I was writing here I into R square by R square plus Z square whole power 3 by 2. And in turn, your Z value is equal to R by 2. So you can substitute that and tell me the answer. That is nothing but R square by 4 whole power 3 by 2. 8I by 5. No, what happened to R? Please cross check. So this you are going to get 5 by 4 whole power 3 by 2. So when it comes to the numerator, 4 by 5 whole power 3 by 2 into I R square divided by R cube. So you are going to get 4 by 5 whole power 3 by 2. You please cross check. The value will come 0.71554 into I by R. So this is a magnetic field intensity due to a Helmholtz coil by considering one number of windings. Suppose what will happen if you try to enclose the coil 1 with n number of windings, both coil 1 and coil 2. So what is the change in the equation? If each coil is surrounded by n number of windings, your magnetic field is going to multiply with n terms. As of now, we have seen there is only one loop in which the current is flowing. So that is the reason why I have considered I by R. Suppose if the coil is having n number of windings, that means equal in both coil 1 and coil 2, the resultant magnetic field is multiplied with n times. So any questions you can ask now? Good. So finally, what is the thing here right now? So we have seen the two cases. When it is purely a single circular coil, the magnetic field intensity is given by this formula on the axis of the coil. And if you are calculating exactly at the center of the coil, your Z will be 0. So the magnetic field intensity is I by 2R. And when you see in the Helmholtz coil, the net magnetic field intensity will be 0.71554 Ni by R. R is the radius of the coil and I is the current you are passing through the wire and N is the number of circulations around the coil. So actually, I thought I should have been directly told you the formulas, but my intention is here, you can understand at least the concepts behind that. Because actually you can ask your friends, whoever is taking gate coaching in other coaching centers, what actually they used to say when it comes to the magnetostatics was straight away given the formulas. And even you can ask your friends also, they will say most of the time they will feel magnetostatics part is a very difficult part in EMT. Most of the people used to say the reason that one, because it involves a lot of mathematics, as you can see here. My intention is to make that mathematics part very clear for you, so you don't get any doubt next time. Whereas when it comes to the gate point, of course, I will also agree. You have to remember the formulas. But the thing, the moment once you understand the background out of it, next time you will not be able to forget it. At least one time you go through the derivation part and get the concept behind that. So even in the examination, whatever the question they will ask, whether it will be twisted or something, it's a simple question, you will be able to solve. So just telling the formulas, I don't find, even throughout the electromagnetic theory, I don't want to just simply to tell the equations to memorize. I want each and every derivation, each and every equation to be solved mathematically or in a conceptual manner. So that is the reason why I thought I can explain all these things to you, and it will be helpful for you in future also. Maybe if you are choosing EMT as your domain, it is very important. So any questions you have?
Hello?
Yes, yes.
But that, what is the direction of that net magnetic field intensity here?
Correct. The direction of the net magnetic field will be along this direction, as I said right now. Because the coil is flowing in the anti-clockwise, the net magnetic field direction is flowing in this way. Okay? Okay. So we'll solve some problems related to whatever the concepts we have discussed today. So we have seen what all the concepts we have seen: the magnetic field, vector potential, Poisson's equation, and boundary conditions, and the magnetic field intensity due to different geometries. So shall we start the problems then? If you don't have any questions, we can start with the problems. So see the first question, and you can only read it and try to tell me the answer. So there is a region shown below which contains a perfect conducting half space and air. The surface current K on the surface of a perfect conductor is given, and the tangential magnetic field in the air just above the perfect conductor will be. Yeah, somebody is having a question here. Yes. Hello. Yes, you can ask if you have any question. Okay, you can see this and you try to solve. Yeah. So you can see here, this is my interface which is separating two different mediums. So below the interface, there is a perfect conductor, and above this interface, there is a free space. You can consider. And there is a surface current which is flowing along this X direction I have given here, right? Yeah, I have given the surface current is flowing along the X direction. Then find the tangential component of magnetic field in the air just above the perfect conductor. So we have to find out the magnetic field intensity in this case. Can anybody tell me what is the answer you got? B, 2x cap. Still others? Let others also solve. This is very tricky in magnetostatics. The thing is, what is the problem here was, if you are not 100% confident, the answer is definitely going to be wrong. And at the same time, if you are overconfident also, your answer is 100% wrong. It actually tests whether your concepts are clear or not. So somebody is saying here B, are you 100% confident? Now only you can test here, you see.
Sir, I just applied for the formula of h tan 1 minus h tan 2
That's
is
okay.
equal.
That's okay. My point is very clear. You had 100% confident that B is correct, or what is your confidence level in terms of 100%?
50-50.
50-50. So you are doubt. So which means that as I said, your answer is exactly wrong. Correct. That's what happens in magnetic fields. You need to have 100. Your concepts has to be very clear. So first, when it come across two different mediums, so we had the tangential boundary condition, right? You can straight away apply that. So what it says, H tan 1 minus H tan 2 is equal to K. That's well and good, fine. So as I said, when you are considering anything, so you consider as same as medium 2 and medium 1, right? So your medium 2 is a perfect conductor right now, and medium 1 is a free space. Okay. So what is the magnetic field intensity in a perfect conductor? When you have inside a perfect conductor, this is my perfect conductor. Good. So if you are trying to illuminate with electric field or magnetic field, what will happen? The conductor will not allow any electromagnetic fields into that medium. That means the magnetic field intensity inside a perfect conductor is 0. Similarly, the electric field intensity is also said to be 0. You have to remember that. I will tell you a mathematical way of explanation when you go to the wave propagation. So if any signal incident on a perfect conductor, everything gets reflected back. So similarly, if any signal incidenting on this interface, it will get reflected back because conductor is not allowing that. So what is the magnetic field intensity in medium 2? You are getting it to be 0. So which means that your tangential component is 0 and normal component is 0. So which I can say that H tan 2 is said to be 0. So you can substitute that. So the magnetic field intensity in the air is nothing but the magnetic field intensity in the first medium. As per your equation, air is nothing but the medium 1. So what you can say, H tan 1 minus 0 is equal to K. So what I was going to get, H tan 1 is equal to K. So what is the value of K I have given? That will be 2 into AX cap, right? But you have to be more careful here. The direction of the magnetic field intensity will not be same as the direction of current. So what I told you in the case of surface current, can anybody tell me what is the direction of magnetic field in terms of surface current? Or not only surface current, what will be the direction of magnetic field generally? Will it lies in the same direction of perpendicular to what?
Sir, current, sir. And that
Perpendicular to current and
length also.
current and radial direction, correct? I told you in the first class only. The direction
Yes,
of
sir.
magnetic field is perpendicular to current and radial direction, right? Now,
Yeah.
where you are finding the magnetic field? You are finding the magnetic field in the first medium. Let me say something like this. So this is your K vector. But actually, if you want to find the direction of magnetic field, it doesn't lies in the direction of K. The direction of magnetic field will be, what is the direction of magnetic field? Surface current into radial direction. Of course, whatever I have given here is the magnitude only. It's not the direction. So when you want to find the direction also, you know that the surface current will be 2AX cap. And what will be the radial direction in this case?
AY cap.
Good. Because you can see here when this is your source and this is your observer. So when you are moving from source to observer, you are moving in the direction of AY. So it will be 2AZ cap. The answer will be 2AZ cap. So is it clear for everybody how to find the direction?
Sir,
Yeah, yes.
this 2AZ cap is actually the tangential component of H only, right?
Correct, correct.
Okay. Sir.
Yes. Because you can see here, in that case, can you tell me what is the interface located? Which surface is considered as an equal? Whatever I have shown here, it is not a line. Basically, it is the surface, right?
Yes, sir.
So what is that surface? Can you characterize that surface?
XY surface.
XY, yeah? No. You can see here, Y is perpendicular to the surface.
Okay.
It is
Okay.
XZ. Yeah, correct. It is XZ. So that's what you can, now even you can verify that. You can see here, right? This is your xz which is located, and see here is the direction of current here. Current is flowing in the x direction. In the case of surface current, I told you, if the current is flowing in this direction, the magnetic field will be perpendicular. So it will be along z. So the same thing you are verified here also. Clear? When I was explaining the surface current, what I told you, you have a surface current located in the xy plane, right? And this is your z direction. Okay, in that case, if the current is flowing in the x direction, do you remember when I was calculating the magnetic field intensity, in which direction I have considered the loop there? I have considered a loop in the y direction because the magnetic field is there in the y direction only. So it is very simple. When you have any sheet, if the current is flowing in x direction, the magnetic field will be the other direction. So similarly, even in this case also, the sheet is because you can see here the perpendicular direction is y. So whatever the interface is nothing but your xz plane. And as per the equation, the current is flowing in the x direction. So the magnetic field has to be there in z direction. Same as this logic. Or otherwise, if it get confused, you stick on to the basic. The magnetic field direction will be current into radial. This is always helpful in solving the magnetic field. So current is flowing in the x direction and the radial direction will be along y direction. So this will give the perfect answer. So I hope this point is clear. Next, we will go to the next question. So see that. And so the interface located at x is equal to 0 is separating between two different mediums. And the magnetic field intensity in the region x greater than 0. So this is the characteristics. So I think I have given the magnetic field intensity here. Okay, this is the magnetic field intensity in the region x greater than 0. Then you find the magnetic field intensity in the region x less than 0. So let me draw that. So this is my x equal to 0 interface. So can you tell me which is the perpendicular direction for this plane? X equal to 0 yz plane. So which will be the perpendicular direction? Can you reply here? Good. X equal to 0 is a y. My negative x. So negative x means this is the surface where it is x less than 0. And x means x greater than 0. Right? So you can see here x greater than 0 is characterized by mu is equal to mu naught and epsilon is equal to 3 epsilon naught. And x less than 0 is characterized by mu equal to 2 mu naught and epsilon is equal to 3 epsilon naught. Fine. And the magnetic field intensity in x greater than 0 you already know. Right? So in this case you know. So this consider it as medium 1 and this you consider it as medium 2. So in medium 1 you already know what is the value. So in medium 1 what is the value? It is 5ax cap minus 2ay cap plus 3az cap. So the first thing was, the moment once you assume this as medium 1, you change everything like this. It is the first medium, epsilon 1, mu 1, and this is the second medium, mu 2, epsilon 2. And as I said earlier, the wave is always entering from medium 2 to medium 1. So when you are assuming in that case, what is the boundary condition you have? H tan 1 minus H tan 2 is equal to K. Okay. So can you tell me what is the H tan 1 in that case? What is the H tan 1? That means what is the tangential component of magnetic field in medium 1? You can switch on your microphone and tell. So out of this equation, which one represents the tangential component?
said, is it minus 2ay plus 3az cap?
Correct, correct. Because it is YZ plane, right? So when you see this equation, only the x component represents normal, right? So if you look at the interface x equal to 0, x component represents a normal. So this 5 into ax cap is the normal component. So other than 5ax cap, rest of the things represents a tangential. So you can say that h tan 1 is equal to minus 2ay cap plus 3az cap. So with that, you try to solve h tan 2. And I have, if nothing is given about the interface means, you can assume k is equal to 0.
So,
Yeah, yes.
you said like when we consider the above should be the medium 2, right, sir? Like it will be entering at medium 2, right?
No, it can be anything. That is not a problem. But accordingly, you need to take the sign. Right now, see here. Suppose you, in your case, let me say you have considered x greater than or equal to 0 is medium 2. Okay. And x less than or equal to 0 is your medium 1. Fine. In that case, what is there? You need to find out what is the magnetic field intensity in the region x. In this question, where you need to find out magnetic field intensity.
Greater than 0.
No, x greater than 0 is given. X less than 0, right? Right?
Yes, sir.
You got my point. H tan 1
Yes.
is unknown. If you are assuming in that way. What I was doing here. H tan 1 is known and tan 2 is said to be unknown. You got my point. I know. If you are doing in the interchange also, not a problem. But ensure that if you consider medium 1, if you, whatever the known field, if you consider medium 1, your unknown becomes medium 2.
Yes.
If you have any doubt, once again, what I will do, I will try to solve in the same fashion what I have discussed, and you stick on to this concept. Okay, you just assume that the wave is entering from x greater than or equal to 0 to x less than or equal to 0. You go ahead, whether we will get different answer or not, we will see. Then you can understand it better.
Yes, sir.
Or otherwise, let me explain in. It's better, I think. I will explain it in the same way how you have understood. So since you know the magnetic field intensity in x greater than 0, so let me consider that is medium 2 only, not a problem. I don't want to make it confusing. So this is your medium 2 and you want to find out magnetic field intensity in medium 1. So that will be x less than 0. So this case what will happen? The top direction will be what? Can you tell me which represents the upward direction?
Minus 6.
Very good. Minus x and this should be plus x. And you know the magnetic field intensity in H2. So let me write it as pi ax cap minus 2ay cap plus 3az cap. So find out what is the magnetic field intensity in the first medium. And that x greater than 0, you already know mu is equal to mu naught and epsilon equal to 3 epsilon naught. So you change the conventions here. Since it is medium 2, you take it as mu 2 and epsilon 2. And x less than 0, I have given mu is equal to 2 mu naught and epsilon is equal to 3 epsilon naught. So since it is medium 1, you change the conventions accordingly. Now, this case, what will happen? Your h tan 2 is said to be, what is h tan 2 in this case? Minus 2ay plus 3az cap. So find out h tan 1. So what is the boundary condition? Now I think it is as per your understanding only. So the wave enters from medium 2 to medium 1. You need to find out what is the magnetic field intensity in medium 1. So what is the boundary condition you have? H tan 1 minus H tan 2 is equals to, I can write in terms of direction also. So how I to write including direction? K into radial direction. So I can say H tan 1 minus H tan 2 is equal to, of course in this case there is no surface current, right? I haven't given any. No, I have given current density, sorry. I have given there is a current density of 0.5 ay cap, right? So there is a current density of 0.5 ay cap. And can you tell me what will be the radial direction now? Everybody? Others? Is it negative x or positive x?
Negative.
Correct. Because see, you are finding the magnetic field intensity in medium 1. So when you are in medium 1, let me say you are here. This is the point where you are here. So the radial direction is, this is the source and this is your observer. So you are moving in the negative x. So this will be negative x. So you can substitute that. So h tan 1 is your unknown, which you have to find out, is equal to h tan 2. And you can see ay cross ax is minus az, and this minus into minus is get cancel. So you are going to get plus 0.5 az cap. So for h tan 2, you just add plus 0.5. So what is the h tan 1 you are going to get right now? So minus 2 ay cap plus 3.5 az cap. So this is your magnetic field intensity in the first medium. So take it as equation 1. So you can do it for the normal component then in the same fashion. So up to this, anybody is having question? Till up to this point in finding h tan 1. If it is over, try to do it for the normal component. So for normal component, you already know what is that. B normal 1 is equal to B normal 2. So you can say mu1 h normal 1 is equal to mu2 h normal 2. So find out h normal 1 in that case. So mu2 by mu1. So mu2 is mu naught and mu1 is 2 mu naught. So 1 by 2 times. And h normal 2, you can see here, this is the x component, which will be 5ax cap. So we'll get h normal 1 is equal to 2.5 ax cap. So the magnetic field intensity in the first medium is the sum of the tangential component plus normal component. So you can add this and this together. So final answer becomes 2.5 ax cap minus 2 ay cap plus 3.5 az cap. Okay, any questions you have in this problem? Okay, I will go to the next question then. So see the question. So there is a magnetic vector potential is given, then find the flux through the surface shown below. So you need to find out the flux which is passing through this surface. So there is a magnetic potential given and you need to find out the magnetic flux. So first of all, what is the relation between the magnetic flux and vector potential? We know there is a relation between the magnetic flux and the magnetic flux density, right? So the magnetic flux is the flux density multiplied by the area. We know that rule, right? So and in turn, you know that the magnetic flux density can be found by the curl of that vector potential. So this is the formula straight away. So first you take the curl of this vector and multiply with ds. So can you tell me what is the surface area in this case? So when you are moving in this surface, what is going to change? So as I mentioned here clearly, when you are going in this direction, your radial direction changes, and when you are going in this direction, your z value change. So what is the surface area? dy dz. Good. And what about the direction? What about the direction of this surface?
Ax cap.
Ax cap. Good. The direction will be whichever is constant or whichever is not varying. So in this case, y is varying and z is varying, keeping x as a constant. So your dx will be ax cap. And all of you find the curl of the vector and post the answers here. Good. So first find the curl of that vector, and remember you have to take the scaling factors because it is given in a cylindrical system. So first do the curl of that vector, everyone, and tell me what is the answer you got. So you should be careful about the scaling factors. So you should take the first row with the scaling factors and the second row is the differentials. If anybody done with that, you can share the answers. And the third
So
row
that
is the scaling factor. Yeah.
is cylindrical, but how can ds then be dy dz?
No. In this case, your row is along the y-axis. That case you can say, right? So when you are moving along this direction, you are getting a row variation. But specifically speaking, x is 0. So when x is equal to 0, your row is same as y or not? You got my point?
Yes, sir.
So basically, what is the value of rho you have defined? Root over?
X square plus y square.
Correct. So when you are moving on this axis, rho is varying. Exactly. Rho is varying. But rho will be varying. Even x can be constant in that case. Is it true or not? So when you
Yes.
are moving on this axis, your x will be 0.
Okay, sir.
So rho variation can also be considered it as a y variation. This is a special case, right?
Okay, sir.
Right. You can say even d rho only, not a problem. D rho only, not a problem. But in this case specifically, it is y-axis. So that is the reason why I have considered dy. Okay. So what is the value of curl of A you got? 0.5 aero cap. So let me verify. So rho component, phi component, and z component. So in this case, instead of writing dy dz ax cap, you can verify rho only, not a problem, because A is written in terms of cylindrical. So you can verify it as d rho into dz, and instead of x, specifically speaking, it is phi direction. But phi can be, in this case, it equal to x-axis. Okay, so because the magnetic vector potential is given in cylindrical, so it is always better you can write the equation in terms of cylindrical only. So when you are moving on this surface, your rho is changing and z is changing. So constant one will be the phi. So I can take it as ds will be d rho dz into a phi cap. But it is nothing wrong even if you write dy dz into ax cap also, because it is an exceptional case where your rho will be same as y here and phi will be same as x. You can do that. So because you have taken the curl of the vector in cylindrical, so let us write the surface area is also in cylindrical. That is my intention. So what is the value of curl of A you got now? Somebody write 0.5 into rho. Is it along which direction? A rho or A phi or AZ?
A phi, sir.
Good, A phi. Okay. You will not get any A rho component and AZ component. And of course, you will get A phi component. And when you are doing that, so what will happen? Minus 1 by 4 into 2 rho. So you are getting 0.5 into rho A phi cap, correct? Yes, 0.5 rho into A phi cap. Now we can directly take the integration. So the value of phi is equals to double integral. So curl of A is 0.5 rho A phi cap dot product with d rho dz a phi cap. You can do the integration and tell me the answer. So a phi dot a phi is 1. You can ignore that. So 0.5 into integration of rho d rho from 2 to 4 and integration of dz from 0 to 5. You can see here rho varies from 2 to 4 and z varies from 0 to 5. So what is the value you are getting, and tell me the answers here. So rho square by 2 and this is 16 minus 4, 12. So you are getting 15, right? Please cross check. Is it correct or not? You can verify it. Yes. So we'll go to the next problem then. You can solve this problem. So there are two current carrying wires which are located in that fashion, and you need to find out what is the magnetic field intensity exactly at the midway between them. This is a point. So you can try and tell me the answers now. Can you tell me what is the answer here? These are the infinitely parallel conductors separated by 2R carrying equal and identical currents. So what will be the magnetic field intensity at the midway between them? So first of all, everybody start with your right hand and take the coil 1. This is the first wire you take. This is the first wire. When the point is here, what is the locus of your finger shows because of this one? I by pi into R. So which means that there is no option. See here, that's why don't get confused, not a problem. This is quite different when you are considering the Helmholtz coil. In your Helmholtz coil, the thumb shows the direction of magnetic field. Correct. Because when you take coil 1 and coil 2 in a Helmholtz coil, what will happen? When you put your right hand and the encircle moment of fingers match to the coil 1 and coil 2, even if the point is here or here or here, the thumb is always pointing in the same direction, like this, right? Even if you consider a point here or if you consider a point here. But here what will happen? It's very easy to put the thumb in the direction of current. So you don't compare with this Helmholtz coil. You place the thumb in the same direction of current. That time, the encircle moment of all other fingers shows the rotational nature.
It will be 0, sir. 0.
Good.
Here.
Good. Correct. So in this case, what will happen when the current is passing here, all other fingers shows a different direction. So it is specifically the observer dependent. So all of you start with your right hand by placing the thumb in this direction of current. At this point, what is the other finger shows? Is it into the plane of the paper or outside the plane of the paper? So you start with your right hand thumb and make sure that the moment once the other fingers are encircling, is it pointing into that or out of that? Into the plane. Very good. This is pointing into the plane because of this. What about because of this now? Very good. So when you are placing the same thumb, this time, since the observer is on this side, left side, your other fingers are pointing outside when it reaches the observer point. Correct. So it is pointing outside. So because it is located at equal distance, same magnetic field will be there. One will be pointing inside, one will be pointing outside. So the resultant magnetic field will be straight away 0. So this is a different concept when you are considering the Helmholtz coil. In case of Helmholtz coil, what you are doing? You are placing other than finger matching to the loop. So when you are matching all other fingers except the thumb, your thumb is pointing in the same direction. And here also when you are putting the same coil, your thumb is also pointing in the same direction. So there what will happen? The thumb is not rotating. So it is always pointing in the axial direction. As long as you consider the whatever the other fingers, if you match to the loop, the thumb is not rotating there. Thumb is exactly pointing out in the same direction. But this is a different case. So the thumb is showing the direction of current and the flux is a rotating vector. So because of the first coil, you are getting into the plane of the paper, and because of the second coil, you are getting out of the paper. So you are going to get exactly equal to 0. So I hope this is clear, right, for you? Is it clear? Yeah. Or otherwise, if you have doubt, I will tell you one more shortcut. So let us verify that also. So consider this is your Z direction in this case. So this shortcut is valid if you are placing the thumb in the direction of current. So we'll stick on to the basic. What is the direction of magnetic field? Current into radial. So consider this is your Z direction and this is my, let me say the current is flowing in the X direction. So this is my first wire and this is my second wire. So because of the first wire, what will be the direction of magnetic field? Can you tell me? We'll stick on to this basic. So this formula is valid if the thumb is pointing in the direction of current. So can you tell me, according to this one, what will be the direction of magnetic field due to the first wire? So current is flowing in the X direction. And your radial direction will be what right now? Source to observer, you are moving which direction? You are moving in the increase in the Z direction. So that will be AX cross AZ. And what will be the magnetic field intensity due to the second wire? The current is flowing in the same direction of AX. And this time, the radial direction will be what? Source to observer, you are moving in this direction. It will be AX cross minus AZ. Now only you can see here. This you are going to get negative Y and this you are going to get positive Y. So the resultant will be straight away 0. So you got this concept right now, this shortcut? Good. So move on to the next question then. So find the magnetic field intensity due to a circular loop carries a current of 3 ampere and radius of 6 centimeter at 0, 0, 0 and 0, 0, 3 centimeter. So consider that, not the dipole, you correct it. This loop is centered at origin in the XY plane. So there is a loop which is located in the XY plane and centered at origin. So for XY plane, which will be the perpendicular axis? You know that the perpendicular axis is Z axis. And it is carrying a current of 3 ampere. And it is having a loop radius of 6 centimeters. So first of all, you need to find the magnetic field in 0, 0. So we already discussed 0, 0 means center coil. So at the center of the coil, what is the magnetic field intensity formula given? This is equal to I by 2R. We have verified the same thing. You just substitute the value and tell me the answer. Current is 3 ampere and the radius is 6 centimeter. 6 into 10 power minus 2. So you can verify that you are going to get 25 ampere per meter. Please cross check that and correct me if I am wrong. And the other is located on the z-axis itself. You can see here, this is somewhere located here, 0, 0 and 3 centimeter. So on the axis of the cylinder, you know that the magnetic field intensity will be equal to I into R square by 2 into R square plus Z square whole power 3 by 2. And you can see here exactly in this question, your Z will be equal to R by 2. Right? Your Z is exactly equal to R by 2. So in case of Helmholtz coil, I already told you what is the formula. That is 0.71554 I by R, provided that there are two coils. Right now there is only one coil, so which means that your value becomes by 2. So everybody got the concept what I was doing? Because instead of substituting Z equal to 3 centimeter and R equal to 6 centimeter, because I know the magnetic field intensity in a Helmholtz coil. So in a Helmholtz coil, the value will be 0.71554 I by R, provided there are two coils. But here there is only one coil. Because I was referring it to the Helmholtz coil because the point of interest there also corresponding to Z equal to R by 2. So everybody got what I am saying? Okay. Now, to make the problem simpler, you already know the value of I by 2R, right? I by 2R is nothing but 25 in the first option A. So multiply 25 with 0.71554. That will be the answer. This I was making it simpler. So you can tell me after multiplying that, what is the value? So you can see that. Any questions? You can cross check. This is the value I was getting. Correct. Shall I go to the next one then? Next question. Shall I go to the next one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Last question we'll discuss for today. See that? And so there is an infinitely long conductor of radius A is placed such that the axis is along the Z axis. You can see here it will be Z axis, and the vector magnetic potential due to a direct current I0 flowing along the Z direction is given by this one. So this is a magnetic vector potential, and determine the magnetic field intensity associated with that. So it's simple. First of all, whatever the question he has given, he is asking me to find out magnetic field intensity. So you know that the magnetic field intensity can be found out by the flux density. So B is equal to mu into H, and consider mu is equal to mu naught. So the value of H will become 1 by mu naught into B, and 1 by mu naught into B can be written as curl of A. So you know the vector A, take the curl of that vector and divide it with mu naught. So that will be the magnetic field intensity. So all of you do that, find the curl of that vector So when you are finding the curl of that vector, you can remove all the constant outside. So in a rectangular system, you can remove everything outside. Minus I naught mu naught by 4 pi a square into, you can directly take the rest of the terms. Ax, ay, az, dou by dou x, dou by dou y, and dou by dou z. And third row will be the coefficients. So you can simplify and tell me the value. So some constant k, this I was referring it as some constant k into ax cap into 2y minus 0 minus ay cap into 2x minus 0, and there is no z coefficient. So your h will be straight away same as curl of a divided by mu naught. So curl of a value you already know, the k divided by mu naught. So mu naught get cancelled there. So you'll get minus I naught by 4 pi a square 2y ax cap minus 2x ay cap. This is a magnetic field intensity. Okay, that's it, I think, for today. You have any questions, you can clarify it now. So today and the next session, one more session is there, that is complete the magnetostatics part. So we'll be done with the first chapter, static electric fields and magnetic fields. So in today's lecture, we'll see the concept of the magnetic vector potential and the Poisson's equation in magnetic fields and the boundary conditions. We will see the magnetic field intensity due to the different configuration.